When I opened the door, I was met with a scene straight out of a cliché movie, a man coming home early to find his fiancée in bed with another man. Only in my case, the other man was my father. The trail of clothes on the floor led to the bedroom, where I could hear faint sounds I never wanted to hear in my own home. I was frozen at the door, staring at the clothes on the ground, and in those moments, rage, sadness, and disgust all hit me at once. I took out my phone to record, picking up all the clothes in a daze and throwing them into the hallway. I filmed my way to the bedroom, heart pounding, knowing exactly what I was about to see but dreading every step. When I finally opened the door and flipped on the lights, they both jumped. My father, caught off guard, desperately tried to cover himself and demanded I stop recording. He found a towel and began to walk toward me, reaching for my phone. I warned him not to come closer, but he didn't listen. I punched him square in the jaw, and he slumped to the floor. My fiancée, Elle, just stared at me, speechless, wrapped in the sheets. I aimed the camera at her and said, "Concerned about your fuck buddy, but nothing to say to your fiancée?" My father, coming to, looked up at me, and I told them I just needed to grab something for work. If either of you pieces of shit are here when I get back, I'll send this video to everyone you know. I took one last look at my father and told him, "You are dead to me. You are no longer my father. But you might want to go home and talk to Mom, because I'll be talking to her very soon." I met Elle back in her freshman year of college. We were dorming in the same building, and eventually, we connected over our shared small-town roots and rides home for visits. We quickly became a couple, introduced each other to our close-knit families, and everything seemed perfect. When she graduated, she moved in with me. We both had great jobs near our hometown, and after 3 years, I proposed. For a while, things seemed like they couldn't be better. My dad, B, seemed to welcome Elle with open arms, sometimes even calling her just to chat. I didn't think much of it, assuming he was just being friendly, though looking back now, it all seems like a sick joke. On that day, I had only come home to pick up some paperwork I'd forgotten for a meeting. I never told Elle I was coming back for lunch, so when I saw what looked like my father's car in the parking lot, I thought nothing of it. When I returned to work, I somehow managed to get through my meeting, though I must have looked terrible because my boss pulled me aside afterward, asking if something was wrong. She noticed blood on my collar, and when I told her it was my father's, she looked concerned. I pulled out my phone, showed her the video, and watched as the realization hit her that my fiancée was cheating on me with my father. The whole experience has been a surreal nightmare. I can't stay in this apartment anymore, I can't sleep in that bed, and I don't know where to go from here. For now, I just know I have to tell my mom what happened. Thank you for reading. I'm sorry if this got long, but it feels like a relief to get it all out. I'll take any advice you all have, because right now, I feel completely lost. I never imagined I'd find myself in the position of telling my own mother that her husband, my father, was sleeping with my fiancée. But here I am, going over every bit of detail, and it still feels surreal. After confronting them both and cutting ties, I thought I could start moving forward. Yet, as I tried to reach out to my mother, hoping she'd believe me, I was met with hostility and disbelief instead. Now, with no family support and my heart in pieces, I'm left to pick up what remains of my life. Wow, hello, everyone. I didn't expect to come back to Reddit and have this much support. I didn't really plan to update at all, I just wanted to put what had happened out there and hopefully get some advice. After I wrote down all that happened, I closed my computer and kind of fell into a depression. After I posted, it hit me like a train. To those who think it's fake, I wish I was this creative. I'd write books instead of working a 9-to-5. I'll try to reply more on this post. I just logged back on, and it was honestly too much to try and reply to every comment. Just know I read through most of them, and I truly appreciate everyone's inputs, both negative and positive. So, the day after I posted, I tried to get into contact with my mother, but none of my calls were connecting. I wanted to see if she would get lunch with me, and I'd tell her everything. After about a dozen tries, I decided to get into my car and go to my mother's house. She needed to know what happened as soon as possible, even if talking about it was going to make it hurt all over again. During the drive, I thought about what I would say and how I would say it. That made me start to panic, and I had to pull over twice to throw up. It's not every day you have to tell your mom that her husband is screwing your fiancé. I pulled into the driveway and sat in my car for a moment to calm down and gather my thoughts. I was in my car for a few minutes when my mother threw her front door open, so I stepped out. She started cursing at me, saying, "How dare you come to my home after you hit your father for trying to break up a fight between Elle and you?" She called me every name in the book and labeled me an abuser. She told me I needed to leave, since Elle isn't ready to forgive me yet, and that if she's smart, she hopefully never will. Yes, apparently, my father took Elle to my family's home and told my mom that Elle and I argued, and when he tried to stop it, I hit him. She continued on for a while until I finally snapped and said, "Really, Mom? Because your husband is fuck my fiancé. That's why I hit him. And if you can't take my word for it, I have a video. I'll send it to you, but because my own mother can talk to me like this, don't expect to see me again. I don't want to hear your apology when you finally figure out that you're just as shit of a mom as my piece of shit father." Her face dropped. She looked like what I must have looked like when I first walked into my apartment and caught them. I pulled out my phone and sent her the video. My mom took hers out and watched up until the part where I turned on the light. She then put her phone down and looked up at me, but I turned and went into my car. I backed out of her driveway, looked at her before I took off, and she was in tears. My heart felt for her, but too much was said during that fight for me to pull back in and forgive her. When I got home, I started clearing everything out of my apartment that had to do with Elle or my family. I boxed all of Elle's things up and put them next to the front door. Legally, this has been her place of residence, so I can't technically kick her out. Her name isn't on the lease. Also, she's the type of person who shies away from conflict, and if she returns other than to pick her things up, there will be plenty of conflict. Anything that had to do with my parents, I boxed up and put into storage. Like I said in my first post, we were a very close family, but I've never had a problem cutting toxic people out of my life. I texted Elle's parents, told them I was calling off the engagement, and told them she's been cheating on me. I thanked them for everything they've done for me. Our relationship was still building, but they were kind and supportive of me, so this just added more hurt to the mix. I finished by asking if they would come pick up all of her belongings. I haven't gotten a response from them yet, but I'm hoping they come grab her things, so Elle doesn't have a reason to come back here. Update. I wish I could say I'm doing great, but that would be a lie. Everything hits me in waves. I go from just being numb to boiling with rage. I haven't had a happy moment since I found out. Other than a few friends, I don't really have anyone IRL, especially since my family turned out to be shit. Quite a few things have happened since I posted last. It's been about a month, so this update will tell all that's been going on. After my last post, I decided to get the ball rolling on everything that needed to be done, like getting tested, finding a therapist, moving, and, of course, buying a new bed. I started by calling my doctor's office, telling them I needed to get tested and to refer me to a therapist. I had my first appointment with a therapist 2 weeks ago, and we decided to continue once a week. I also got tested last week, but it'll be another week or so until I get the results. Cross your fingers for me. I got in touch with a real estate agent friend of mine, and he sent me a ton of listings. I decided on a refurbished cabin on the outskirts of my city, and I finished moving 2 days ago. When I finished moving, I called Elle's parents. When they picked up, I told them I moved out and that Elle has still yet to pick up her things. I also mentioned that the landlord will start showing the apartment in a few days, so someone better pick her things up before the landlord throws it out. That must have lit a fire under them because the next day, my former landlord texted me, thanking me for getting the apartment emptied out. No one knows where I live now other than the friend who set me up with this place, so I know Elle or my parents won't be dropping by. The only thing that sucks about this place is I traded a 10-minute walk to work for a 45-minute drive. My phone has been blowing up with texts and calls from Elle, both my parents, and some of my friends, but I have no interest in talking to anyone other than my therapist. At work, I've been a ghost. I go in, get my work done, and leave. On the rare occasion I have to talk to someone, I put on my fake smile and pretend everything is okay. My boss from my previous post has been trying to check in on me more, but I don't really tell her anything either. I just tell her I appreciate it, but I'll be okay. Truth is, I don't know if I'll be okay. I get that time heals and all, but I feel like that's only relevant when you're dealing with one issue, not when you lose who you thought were the 3 closest people in your life all at once. A huge part of me died, and there's no chance of resuscitating it. The meetings with my therapist are going well, I suppose. I've never done therapy before, so I have no reference on what good therapy is. We do get along all right, and she really seems genuine in wanting to help. The first session was us getting to know each other and delving into what brings me to her, nothing in depth, just me telling her what happened in my own words. The second session, we went a bit deeper. She asked me about the relationship I had with my parents. I told her that up until now, it was great. We talked often and always communicated well when something was wrong, and I grew up in a great home, but that all means nothing now. She asked why I cut my mother out of my life. I told her she said things to me I wouldn't say to someone I despised, then told her there's no way she can come back from that. At the end of our last session, I gave her the link to my page on here so she can read more about how I feel and what's going on in my head. I feel like it's easier to type things out than it is to speak them. So, if you're reading this, hi Doc. For now, I'm still miserable. I thought I'd be okay by now, not necessarily happy, but okay. I know some of it is my own fault for not communicating with my friends, but when I think about responding to them, it just seems so exhausting. I know they'll want to get together or come to my new place, but I just don't have the energy to be around them. Until I do, I'll work, go to my appointments, and sit on my back deck, sipping on some bottom shelf whiskey, and try to enjoy this beautiful view. I haven't hunted since high school, so maybe I'll take that up again now that I can hunt from my back porch.
Elle is pregnant. Yeah, I was as shocked as you probably are now. My mother, who I'd finally decided to reconnect with, broke the news to me just as I was getting ready to leave. Elle had shown up at my mom's house, telling her she didn't know if the baby was mine or my father's. My mother hadn't heard from me since I'd pulled away, so she simply sent Elle on her way. But, of course, that left me with even more to process. I'm writing this update to let you all know I'm alive and to give you the lowdown on what's been happening recently. First, I want to apologize to those who've worried about me over the past few months. After my last post, I was nowhere near okay, so I pulled back from everything and secluded myself to heal and cope with what is now my life. I want you to know every comment and message didn't fall on deaf ears. I took all of your positive feedback and advice and worked through my problems. So, to the people who've supported me through this, truly thank you. I can't stress it enough, when I was at the lowest I've ever been, it was internet strangers who were there for me. So again, thank you all. In my last post, I was doing things like getting tested for STDs and trying to restart my life. I'm happy to inform you all that I am clean and couldn't be more relieved. I am fully moved into my new place. When I told you all about it, I mentioned it was a refurbished cabin. Well, I might have been a little generous. It was refurbished almost 25 to 30 years ago, so it was a bit dated. With all my newfound free time, I decided to actually refurbish it myself, and all that's left to do is paint the guest room I turned into an office. The only things I didn't do myself were the electrical work and plumbing, because I have no clue how to do it and zero interest in being shocked or putting my hand in a sewage-covered pipe. Doing all the work has been incredibly stress-relieving and has helped me clear my head. I still see my therapist once a week, and to all those who suggested it, you probably saved my life. Thank you. Being able to vent, get my frustrations out, and get the advice I need has been better than anything in my life, past or present. I'm still working at the same company, and I've become more open with some of my closer coworkers and my boss from my previous post, due to the advice from my therapist. Also, thanks to her and some of your advice, I've reached out to my friends and have slowly been reintegrating into the group again. Now, onto the update with what's been going on between my family and ex. I decided I was ready to have a talk with my mother, so a little over a month ago, I unblocked her on my phone and reached out. I called, and almost instantly, she picked up. I could tell from the tone of her voice that she was panicking. Eventually, after reassuring her it was me, I told her we should meet and talk. She agreed, and a day later we met at a diner near her house. She was there before I was, and when she saw me, she started quietly sobbing. When I sat down, she apologized over and over again, telling me she could only take their word because she never thought them getting together would ever happen. I told her that while I appreciate her apology, the things she said to me were despicable and something no mother should ever say to their child, and it showed me exactly what she thought of me. She cried harder and promised it wasn't true, saying that when she was told I hit my father for no reason, she was so angry, and when I showed up at the house, she just let her anger take over. Not wanting to go back and forth, I decided to move on. I said, speaking of that POS, what have you decided to do with him? She told me they've been separated. She kicked him out since the day after I sent her the video, and she immediately found a lawyer. Then we moved on to my ex. She said that when I pulled away, she went back into the house and threw them both out as she was too disgusted to look at them. We talked for about an hour in total, and before I left, I told her that I was in a dark point of my life, and because of the things she said to me, I didn't have my mother when I needed her. Because of that, I don't know if I can have her in my life. I then told her I'm willing to work on my relationship with her, but it will be at my pace. Well, that's about it for the update. I have a lot on my mind, not sure what to do or feel. Thank you for reading, and sorry for rambling on and on.